Welcome to Subramani. One of my favorite topics is retirement, and one of my favorite topics is equity. So I have done many videos on how much of equity should you have equity at all in your retirement, and how do you protect yourself if there is a problem with equity. So largely the aim of a retiree, a man or a woman, is to say how much cash do I have, or rather how much is the total assets that I have. You leave alone one house in which a person is living, and to convert all this wealth that I have created over a long period of time into cash flow for my expenses, and to leave behind what I think I should leave behind. It could be 0 to whatever number that I want. I want to live only on my current income and I want to leave everything to my children. That's also fine. Or saying I should have a good standard of living, and whatever gets left over gets left over. I don't have a target that I should leave away X amount of lakhs or crores or whatever, depending on the size of the portfolio. So largely, if you want to achieve wealth in the longer term, it makes sense to be investing in equities. At least that is what the last 40-50 years of investing has shown us. And in the US, maybe about 100 years of data that is available shows us. So that is the conclusion which we will come to, and we could be completely wrong, right? Remember the mutual fund risk factor. The future may not be same as the past was, right? Past performance is not an indicator of future performance. So we don't know, but largely we go by the belief that there has to be more equity. Now, having more equity traditionally has meant that you will create more wealth, but please understand that there can be a downside too. It is not a painless journey, and you will have money in equity and you will go through fine. You will have deep drawdowns where you will start suspecting whether you will run out of money, right? So largely investing for retirement people or retired people, it's about you have to take into consideration what could be the future returns of equity, what could be the future returns of debt, what could be the future returns post checks in an annuity or in a drawdown or in postal schemes, etc. But remember, postal schemes don't matter for the real rich. 15 lakhs in postal schemes or 15 lakhs in Varishta Bima Yojana, it does not really matter in a 5 crore or a 6 crore portfolio. Even in a 2 crore portfolio, it has a minimum role, but on a 5 crore portfolio, I wouldn't even suggest that. I would say don't even bother about that, right? Simply because in a 5 crore portfolio, if you have money in equities, you anyway have dividends, and dividends are today taxable. So that may be a lower percentage, but their growth would be better. So again, I digress, but I'm trying to see how do you take decision making with uncertain interest rates, uncertain growth in equity markets, and very importantly to provide till your age of 95 or things like that. If it's a couple and I'm addressing the man, then I would say 95 for the man, assuming 90 for the woman. If you're assuming 100, then you assume 100 for the woman, assuming that the man dies at 95. So either ways, you have to provide for the family till the woman is 100, because women live longer. So if the man lives till 92, possibly the woman lives till 95, but you need to plan till 100. So that is your target, and that is the longevity risk. That of course there is a risk that a person could live even beyond 100, but you have to make some assumption while you are doing investment. So I think I normally tell a person when I'm doing a session that plan till you're 100. Everybody ridicules this, but even if 5-10 people out of the 10-20 people that you address cross 100, it would be worth the effort, and it is already happening. People are living to 98, 99. So then you know that I have an aunt who is now, or rather my mother's aunt who is now 97 and up and running, right? So it does not, she has no parameters to say that she's going off in a hurry, but she's 97. Luckily, her husband was in the government service and they have a pension. We need to plan for ourselves and for our friends, those who ask us. And if you're an IFA for your clients, or an MFD for your clients, if you're an RA for your clients, if you're a banker for your clients, to know how to plan for more equity or less equity depending on the person. The general conclusion is that a retired person is better off having more money in equity, but you have to understand that there is risk. How do you counter that risk? You counter that risk by doing a very simple thing, buying a lot of annuity. Now, annuity is not a very liked word. It's a terrible investment, low returns and taxable, but then that is the only way or the best way to offset the risk that you're taking in equity. You keep on putting money in annuity, which is enough to be able to give the investor in adequate monthly cash flow to live on a day-to-day basis, including providing for inflation. How do you provide for inflation? By buying more annuity. So you buy the first annuity at 68, the second annuity at 75, and maybe the third annuity at 82. How do you fund that? With the equity portfolio that you have. And why do you need an annuity? Because the cash flow, if you can provide enough cash flow, for example, if I have a dividend income of say 10 lakhs a year and my annual expenses are 4-5 lakhs, I am adequately provided for by my dividend, and I have enough cushion for the fall in the dividend also for me to be able to draw more and maintain my lifestyle, because the 5 lakhs excess which I am getting currently is getting reinvested. If that is getting reinvested, say even in debt, and I am sure that I will get say 0.5% per year, month, or about 6-7% per annum. That extra 5 lakhs is also adding up to the main corpus, so it is not really bothering me. But everybody may not be in such a position. People may need to draw down. When you need to draw down, that money has to come from a debt fund, or it could come from an annuity. But if you are in a direct equity investor, it could come from dividends, right? But there would be some cases where that may not be true, is when somebody can't tolerate short-term volatility and says, no, I'm 80 years of age, I don't want to create more wealth, I want to be sure that I have enough cash flow to live on a day-to-day basis for the rest of my life. Maybe it is 20 years, right? And also those people who have a shorter goal towards retirement, if they're 57, 58 and they don't want equity, again that is another case. And those who are very pessimistic about equity market returns, and I would be pessimistic if I were in US, simply because I think the market has gone up too fast and too well, fantastic, but very concentrated way. A few shares have gone up and made look. What has happened, all the endowment investments, I'll talk about endowment versus conventional investing very soon. They have got better returns because they've got put more money in equity. But those endowments which took a chance with unicorn investments or with boutique managers, they've also got good returns, but they may not have beaten the index, and that is putting pressure on them, saying, look, something is wrong. But if you don't have a broad-based bull market like what we have had in the US over the last 10 years at least, then the other manufacturers might perform better than the index fund also. So when you're dealing with an investor who is perhaps a retiree or about to retire, and you're talking about the portfolio having a lot more equity, what are the 3-4 things that you have to worry about? First of all, the portfolio is likely to be more volatile. So check with the client 100 times, maybe over different points of time during the day, or maybe during the week. You keep on and perhaps take it down in writing that this portfolio will be more volatile. Does the client really understand volatility? Will the client be willing to change the amount of money that he draws on and off if there is a bad market? Second, sometimes over periods of time, it could even be a very long period of time, say 10 years, debt could outperform equity. If this happens, how is the client going to react? Is he going to say, I could have kept it in ultra short bond fund? I remember a period when ultra short bond fund outperformed the leading equity fund of the same fund house, and we would say, who is the person where you are going for growth, and where is the person where you are going for protection and preservation of capital? That was not very clear and not very visible, right? So that is one thing which could happen. Second, therefore the drawdown will have to be managed. The second is or third is the sequencing risk. So initially, if you get very poor returns in your retiree portfolio, which means you're 60 years of age, so from your age of 61, 62, 63 and 64, you got very bad returns in equity, and after that equity started doing well, the chances are you may have eroded too much of your money. So when the equity markets start going up, you're participating in a very small way or almost zero, because that volatility may have scared you and you may have removed money from a falling market, which is perhaps the worst thing to do. But you never know. Human mind does not work according to Excel sheets, because you see so many debates on should you buy a house or should you stay in a rented house. So ultimately people will say if you can afford to buy a house, you should buy a house, because there are pleasures, there are intangible advantages, etc. So don't go just purely by Excel sheet. The client's ability to sit tight during long periods of time, especially if there is a sequence risk of getting poor returns as soon as you start and wiping out a big part of your capital. This is not very easy to manage in day-to-day real life situations. So be careful about to whom you're suggesting, what you're suggesting, whether that person wants growth. Don't push growth on a retiree if he says, look, I just want cash flow. It is not your job to provide for growth, right? The client is only wanting, or the person you know is only wanting cash flow. Why are you breaking your head over growth? So when you create a portfolio mixing all of this, good chance that you will be lucky to do well. Consulting somebody constantly and monitoring that on a regular basis will be very useful. Thank you.